Hello everyone, this is Adicon Podfic, back on another podfic. Today I will be starting a new fanfiction. This one is called The Mist Protects by Tea Party Canon. This is a Demon Slayer fanfiction. I've been wanting to, start it for a while because I finished it a while ago. But I've been needing a second long fic to do, so we're starting this one. Anyway, let's start it off with a summary. Yuichiro wasn't a chosen one. He didn't have the strength to be kind, to save others, but he was an older brother, if only by a few minutes. So, for Muichiro's sake, he would find the strength he needed in order to save the only family he had left. Muichiro may be a demon, but that did not make him a monster. His memories were shrouded in mist, but he remembered his rage, and he remembered Yuichiro, his brother, and he'd protect him, no matter what. Let's jump right into the first chapter. Chapter 1. The Dream. It was a hot summer night. The door was open. Something, came inside. How did this happen? His chest hurt. Gashes raked across his skin, bleeding and bleeding. He placed a hand over his chest, and when he pulled away, the palm was stained red. The house was empty except for him. He could hear sounds outside, screams of rage, the ripping and tearing of flesh. At some point, the sounds stopped, and he was left in silence. He couldn't move. His chest hurt. Where was his brother? Was he okay? He didn't know how long he laid there, until he heard a new sound, a long scream of pain, pure and primal, the voice of his brother. Muichiro! He pushed himself to move, even after the screaming stopped. He kept trying. He feared the worst, but he couldn't give up. By some miracle, he found the strength he needed. It was slow and painful. His body screamed in protest, but he moved. Outside, it was dark, but for the light of the moon. He staggered forward, eyes searching for his brother. He spotted something up ahead, a shape framed in moonlight, crouched over the ground. He heard growls like an animal, sounds like ripping and crunching. He tripped over his own feet and collapsed. The shape froze, lifted its head, and turned towards him. The face of his brother glared, slitted eyes, wide and wild. Something black came from his mouth, dripping blood and saliva down his chin and on the ground. A snarl like nothing he'd ever heard before emanated from his throat. Mui? His vision went black. Yuichiro woke up to silence and daylight. The sun streamed in through the open doorway. It highlighted the blood splattered along the walls and floor, even the futon he slept on. He hated it. It was disgusting, but he didn't have the time or means to try and clean the stains out. That dream again. Taking deep breaths to calm himself, his eyes trailed to a dark corner of the tiny house. Beneath the blood-stained white futon, glowing turquoise eyes peered at him, unblinking and deathly silent. They didn't move, so Yuichiro turned away. At this point, he wasn't even surprised to see them anymore. He scratched at the itchy bandages wrapped around his chest, hidden under his yukata, and moved to stand up. It was a new day, and there was work to be done. The summer afternoon was hot. Insects buzzed as the sun beat down unceasingly, and only the shade of the trees provided any relief. Yuichiro spent hours roaming the territory around his small home, setting and checking traps and foraging for food. He found a share of mushrooms that would do for himself, but what he really needed was meat, any kind of meat. Luckily for him, one of the traps near his home yielded a rabbit. Unluckily, the trap hadn't sprung right, catching the rabbit but not killing it. The small brown animal struggled weakly with its head under the trap. Yuichiro suppressed a feeling of pity as he unsheathed the small knife. It was better this way, he reasoned. The meat would be fresh. One cut to the neck later, and Yuichiro was on his way back home. The sun was still high, but he was tired and thirsty, and the sweat dampening his bandages irritated the wounds underneath. He couldn't keep going, fit as he was only 11. His house came into view when Yuichiro all but ran through the door. His gaze went first to that one corner. The glowing turquoise eyes hadn't moved, hiding beneath the futon just as he'd left them. Sometimes he still thought they might disappear, or this might turn out to be one long dream, but the reality always remained the same. Yuichiro tried not to let his unease show as he approached. He took the rabbit clutched in his hand and tossed it in front of the eyes, which went wide in response. Here, Mui, eat this. It's fresh. At his words, the futon shifted, and something slowly crawled out. That something looked almost identical to himself, if it wasn't for the teal sclera and empty turquoise irises that glowed unnaturally in the dark, or the sharp, curved claws that tipped its fingers, or the large fangs that filled its mouth as it suddenly leapt forward and sank its teeth into the dead rabbit's flesh. Yuichiro flinched and looked away, trying not to focus too much on the sounds of tearing flesh and crunching bone. This was his brother, Muichiro, he reminded himself, his younger twin. That didn't change, even after this. When the sound ceased, Yuichiro looked back. Muichiro had his head turned, long hair hiding his face as he licked at his fingers. It was as if he was ashamed of his behavior. Nothing remained of the rabbit except scattered scraps of fur and a puddle of blood. How was it? Yuichiro asked. Was silent for several seconds. Then he opened his mouth. He seemed to have trouble speaking around his new fangs. bland, not feeling. There was no emotion in his voice, just a simple statement of facts. Yuichiro sighed. He wished he could find something that Muichiro would like. Despite being able to eat raw meat now, he was even more picky than before, refusing anything that wasn't flesh and blood. Even cooked meat, he found out, was unappetizing to his twin now. Muichiro looked back at him, and he sighed again at the blood staining his twin's face. Ugh, you're just as messy as ever. Would it kill you to clean your face? Even as he tried at his brother, Muichiro was grabbing cloth and dipping it in a bucket of water. Muichiro held still as he came close and started to clean the blood off. Sorry. Don't apologize, just do better. There was a twinge of guilt as soon as the words left his mouth. That was unnecessarily harsh. He couldn't blame Muichiro for his current state, after all. If it wasn't for Muichiro, he wouldn't even be. Muichiro shook his head. He didn't want to think about that night. But how could he not, with the constant reminder of it right in front of him? To think that demons were real after all. That woman hadn't been lying. He wished he hadn't been injured right at the start. Maybe he could have helped. Maybe he could have stopped what happened. At the very least, he'd know what happened, instead of having to rely on Muichiro's hazy recollection of the night's events. Do you remember anything yet? He ventured to ask. About what happened? About our parents? About us? Muichiro shook his head. Muichiro sighed. It's okay. It'll come back to you eventually. He hoped that was true. Once his twin's face was clean, Muichiro tossed the rag aside and stood up. He stepped back and sat a short distance away. Halfway in the sunlight, Muichiro retreated back into his futon, resembling a scared animal as he looked wide-eyed at the sun-bathed ground, then back at his brother. Muichiro shifted uncomfortably. How should he approach this? Mui, we need to leave. Muichiro blinked slowly. His reaction was hard to gauge. Ever since his transformation, he'd become much less expressive. It made Yuichiro's stomach churn, remembering how emotional, to the point of being annoying, his brother used to be. Leave? Why? Yuichiro bit back the urge to give a scathing retort and tried to think of a mature, reasonable way to explain himself again. We've gone over this, Mui. We're running out of supplies. We should have gone down to sell the wood and restock 2 days ago. Indeed, it had been 4 days since that fateful night, and even if Yuichiro was now the only one digging into their food stock, they didn't have much to begin with. And we need to find help. There has to be someone out there, and some people who could... No! Muichiro suddenly shouted, hiding further in his futon. No people! Look, Mui, I guess if you're scared you might... Yuichiro couldn't bring himself to finish that sentence, but shook his head and continued on a different note. But we can't hide in here forever. Do you want to spend the rest of your life cowering in this shack? Muichiro was quiet, and a heavy silence filled the air. This shack was their family home, and the one their parents had built. They'd spent their entire lives here, a whole 11 years, but their mother and father were long dead, and the two of them were barely hanging on now. It was time to move on. At least, that's what Yuichiro told himself, again and again. Muichiro crept forward, sticking his head out and peering up at Yuichiro's face. He opened his mouth to say something, when something snapped outside the house. In an instant he hissed, actually hissed, like a cat, and retreated back into the futon. Yuichiro cursed as he heard voices outside. Damn it, Mui, stay here, and don't come out no matter what. Yuichiro doubted he needed to tell his brother that, but better safe than sorry. Muichiro had always been an awful listener, after all. He ran outside and immediately felt a sort of anger at the unfortunately familiar sight of a white-haired woman in a traveling kimono. You! We told you not to come back here! Yuichiro shouted, his hands curling into fists at his sides. You're not welcome here! As Yuichiro stomped closer, he took notice of a man accompanying the woman. The man's appearance was striking, to say the least, with orange hair that spiked out like flames and a fiery cape over some sort of uniform. Yuichiro's stomach dropped as he caught sight of the sword sheathed at the man's side. The fiery-haired man looked over the younger boy, his smile bright enough to eclipse the sun. Good afternoon! You are the older Tokito, Yuichiro, I presume? Yuichiro blinked. The man was practically shouting each word, as if he wasn't just a few feet away. He nodded, but didn't say anything. Wonderful! My name is Kyojo Rengoku, a Hashira of the Demon Slayer Corps. Lady Amana and I ask that you and your brother come with us immediately. So direct. Huh? My apologies, Tokito. Allow us to explain. Amane bowed her head. There have been reports of demon sightings in this area. It is not safe for you two to stay here any longer. Yuichiro felt a chill run through him, but he rolled his eyes and scoffed. There you go again, spouting nonsense about demons. Demons aren't real, and Mui and I are fine. We don't need your help. He hoped his words sounded convincing, hoped his voice and body language didn't betray his fear. Kyojuro spoke up next. Beyond just regular demon sightings, we have also received word of an incredibly powerful demon spotted nearby. It may even be an upper moon. Thus, it would be highly unsafe for civilians such as yourselves to remain here unprotected. Yuichiro didn't know what an upper moon was, but the gravity in Kyojuro's voice was proof enough that it couldn't be anything good. But he still didn't trust them. They were demon slayers. If they found Muichiro as he was now... Tokito, may we come in? Amane asked. I'm sure your brother would want to be part of this conversation as well. Don't you dare, Yuichiro immediately yelled. For your information, Muichiro is sleeping. That idiot had a run with a boar the other day and got hurt, so he needs to rest. Oh my, how awful, Amane gasped softly, looking genuinely worried, though for all Yuichiro knew, it could just be an act. Indeed, but all the more reason for you to come with us. Young Muichiro needs a safe place to recover, Kyojuro shouted. Hell no! I'm taking care of him just fine. We don't need your help, Yuichiro snapped. His patience was quickly wearing thin with these people. You're just trying to take advantage of us, so get the hell out of here already. He threw his arm out in his anger, which turned out to be a mistake, as the wounds beneath his bandages flared in response. He hissed and bent forward with his hands over his chest, and in an instant Kyojuro was right next to him, inspecting him with concern. Yuichiro would have shoved him away if he wasn't still in so much pain. Tokito, are you? The Demon Slayer's question halted as the sound of something falling and breaking came from the house behind them. That idiot! Yuichiro turned to go back, but Kyojuro had already rushed past him, so fast that he couldn't begin to keep up with his movements. Within seconds, the Hashira was at the doorway and peering inside. Yuichiro paled. His heart felt like it might burst out of his chest from how fast it was beating. Hey, get away from there! I told you you can't come in! The younger boy ran up behind Kyojuro as he yelled, who was still silently and intently scanning the interior, the blood-stained, damaged interior. Yuichiro tilted his head to see around him and immediately spotted the broken rice container on the floor, and he probably would have been annoyed if he didn't have much bigger worries right now. Thankfully, though, Muichiro was nowhere in sight. There, see? There's nothing, he growled. So get... Again, Kyojuro moved so fast his eyes couldn't keep up. One moment he was standing in front of him, and the next he was above the futon shoved in the far corner, sword drawn and his squirming twin brother held in his grasp. Mui! Kyojuro wasn't smiling anymore, his gaze hard as he looked between the two boys. This is your brother? Yeah, that's Muichiro. Yuichiro felt himself shaking. His eyes were drawn to the sword held in the Slayer's other hand. I see. Very well. I will end this quickly and painlessly so he does not suffer. His grip on the sword tightened, and Yuichiro cried out, Wait! He hasn't hurt anyone. He's innocent, so don't you dare hurt him, you hear me? He has yet to harm a human. Kyojuro didn't look convinced, but at least his blade was still for now. Muichiro seemed to realize struggling against the Hashira's grip was pointless, and so he hung limp with a displeased rumbling in his throat. Yuichiro hesitated for only a moment, his dream flashing back to him. Muichiro had been eating something. What was it? It hadn't looked like an animal, but just as quickly he pushed it out aside. His twin brother, who wanted so much to help others, he refused to believe he would ever hurt another human. No, of course not. Mui's a good kid. He would never hurt anyone. Your belief in your brother is admirable. Kyojuro now wore a smile, but it was softer, more pitying, like he understood what Yuichiro was going through. It just made his blood boil. But you understand, don't you? Your brother has become a demon. Of course I understand that. Do you think I'm stupid? Not at all. It is only natural to want to protect one's family. Kyojuro shook his head. But demons are driven by their instincts to eat humans. A starving demon will attack even family to satisfy its hunger. No matter how kind or gentle they were as a human, a demon will eventually need to hunt and kill. Muichiro shook his head and looked Yuichiro's way. Yuichiro couldn't read the emotion in his twin's eyes, but he knew he was pleading for help. The older boy grit his teeth and took a step forward. Shut up! First of all, it's been 4 days since Mui turned, and he hasn't once tried to hurt me, he snapped. I've been feeding him rabbits and other things I can catch in the mountain. I know he's still hungry, but even so, he's never attacked me. He's different. I don't know why, but he is. Kyojuro still wore that infuriatingly sympathetic smile. I'm sorry. What you say may be true, but your words alone do not ensure he won't attack a human in the future. As the flame hosher of the Demon Slayer Corps, I must do my duty. He shifted his sword and brought it to Muichiro's neck. The younger clenched his eyes shut as his brother cried out helplessly, Wait, stop, please, just stop! What could he do? His words weren't working, and he couldn't hope to overpower the Slayer. He wasn't going to lose his brother, his last remaining family, and he could do nothing about it. The blade gleamed as it prepared to cut Muichiro's neck. Kyojuro, do you remember the master's words? The Hashira froze. He and Yuichiro turned to see Amane step into the house. Her expression was unchanging as she looked between the twins. No matter what, they are both to be brought to the Ueyoshiki estate. Lady Amane, I do not believe. No matter what, Kyojuro, those were his exact words. Amane repeated sternly. The Hashira remained frozen for a moment longer, then removed his blade from Muichiro's throat. His grip on Muichiro's yukata loosened as the boy fell to the floor. Yuichiro rushed forward and knelt down to hug him tightly. Mui, are you okay? Yeah. Muichiro nodded and buried his head against his brother's chest. Yuichiro breathed a sigh of relief and looked up as Amane approached. Muichiro, please come with us to the Ueyoshiki estate. Though the situation is not what we expected, I promise that neither of you will come to any harm there. There was no room for refusal in her tone, and as Yuichiro glared back at the bewildered Kyojuro, he knew that they didn't have a choice anymore. He held Muichiro close and forced the words out. Fine, we'll go with you. And that is the end of chapter 1. I would continue, but we're very close to 15 minutes, and that is my cutoff for another chapter. So we're not doing another chapter. This will probably be another one that I go by, that I do chapter by chapter. Let's see. What do I have to talk about? Oh, I did quite a few things last week. So let's see. I had art club Tuesday, and then Friday I actually had two things that like conflicted with each other. So originally I was going to do knowledgeable, and then we were going to leave for pep band at 4:00 because we were going to districts, because our basketball team had districts, and so we were playing for pep band. But because the other basketball team that we were playing has like a religious thing where they can't play or do anything after sunset, so they had to be completely home by sunset. We had to do the game extra early at about 3:30, which means that pep band had to leave at 2. But because I wasn't knowledgeable, I didn't get back until about 2:20 to 2:30. So after school, I had to go with my friend who stayed behind just for me, to go with my friend and her mom and go to the basketball game, and we made it just before halftime, and so I got to play. I was very happy about that. Also, our stupid trombone player, because we only have one trombone player, our stupid trombone player doesn't show up to anything. So not only do I have the baritone part for Crazy Train, because our baritone doesn't know how to play it, and our trombone almost never shows up. So I have that part. I have the ba 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 da 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 ba da da da. Yeah, that part. I've got that. Even though I play trumpet, I'm not supposed to have it. That's supposed to be bass line, but no, I've got it. Anyway, and then in our funky town, there's a part where the trombone is supposed to play ba ba da, and then I'm supposed to play like bum 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 bum. It's like a call and response kind of thing. But because our trombone doesn't show up, it always sounds super empty. So I'm gonna start playing both of those parts because I have the bum ba 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 da like later on in the song. So I'm just gonna combine both of those and make it so I play both of those parts each time. So it'll be like ba ba da bum 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 ba ba da bum 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 ba 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 da bum 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 ba 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 da bum 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 ba, and that'll be my part. And it'll be very difficult, but I can do it. And then also we have Paint It Black. And there's a part where it's just the trombone, and it's like the main melody kind of thing where it's bum 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 bum, like that main melody part, but it's just trombone. And because our trombone never shows up, nobody's playing there. So I'm probably gonna combine that part into my music too, and just copy my main melody part and put it where the trombone is, because he doesn't ever show up, because he's a lazy piece of shit. Anyway. What else? I don't think I have much else. I don't want to go back to school tomorrow. Oh, I've been experimenting with colored pencils. And because I've gotten really into Danny Phantom recently, I did clockwork fan art because I love clockwork. And I've been like experimenting with colored pencils. So I probably could. 1 second, I will be right back. I don't want to pause the video because I've had bad experiences with that. But basically, I grabbed the photo. What I'm going to do is this. So now, because I'm on screen record, you should be able to see it. I've been working on this for a couple days, like drawing it and stuff. I'm actually very proud of it. So yeah, I'm working on the background right now. You can see I'm doing kind of the portal thing. I've got like the outlines. Basically, I love him. Boop. Okay. Anyway, I need to stop yapping because it's been almost 5 minutes. Anyway, bye. I will see you all next week. I hope you enjoy this. Sorry for this really long rant. Bye.